Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday. We got an 8-game NBA Friday slate to break down today. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we're going to be covering NBA DFS today. I also cover the NFL during that season, and I'm going to be getting into the MLB quite shortly as it's less than 2 weeks away now. So we're going to start to transition with some more content for the MLB is the goal. First time here, welcome. If you can hit me with that thumbs up at any point. If you like DFS, hit me with the thumbs up. If you like my content, if you've been here before, that like button helps a lot. Hit that notification bell. Also, if you're a subscriber. And if you're not a subscriber, first time here, whatever it might be, consider subscribing throughout. It helps me a ton. So thank you. Just trying to make this little side hustle into sort of a career. So appreciate it. Just some housekeeping things. Number one, tonight on SiriusXM, I have a 15-minute segment on Sportsline USA. I think it drops at like 10 o'clock at night Eastern time, but it will replay throughout the weekend. It's previewing the weekend slate and also just talks DFS strategy in general for the NBA. So you can check that out. It'll be a downloadable version throughout the week, so I imagine that's more convenient for pretty much everybody than trying to catch it on the radio. But either way, it's going to be there. I'll put a link on the Twitter. I'll put a link in the Discord for when that sort of podcast drops. It can be found on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. So that's pretty awesome. Check that out. And then, yeah, if you're not in the Discord, people have been just chatting in the Discord. We've been saying it. So it's a free app. It's a website. You can get in there. It's just a group texting. It's totally free. 300 people in there. Not everybody talks, but everybody consumes this information. And if you are interested in the projections, you can get them over on Patreon. $7.99 a month for the NBA. Just a little plug for them there, 30 cents a day if you're interested in just NBA median projections. So without further ado, let's hop on into this slate. So 8-game slate, a little bit more injury news than we've had the past 2 days on these 6-game slates. And we'll start right away. So alphabetical order with these teams here. Charlotte has a lot of things on their injury report as of right now, or a lot of players on their injury report. So most of them are going to be coming back. You had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, you had Cody Zeller, Nicholas Batum, and also Marvin Williams all out in the last game. It was a very depleted team. Kidd-Gilchrist, backup small or power forward, is going to be back today. It's going to affect the likes of Frank Kaminsky to an extent, more so Miles Bridges, the guy who was getting no run and got some increased run because of the lack of depth in the last game. Cody Zeller is doubtful today. So with Cody Zeller being doubtful today, you had Willie Hernan Gomez and you had Bismack Biyombo getting some run in the last game. Mainly Hernan Gomez getting 20 minutes, Bismack Biyombo surprisingly getting less than 10. And then they threw in some other players here and there to cover up the rest of those 5 minutes. So Zeller being doubtful, I imagine the same thing happens again. Hernan Gomez got in some foul trouble, so I think I have him projected for like 22 minutes right now in the sheet. Bismack Biyombo, I believe I have in there for about 12. I can't see how they keep him below 10. Both of them have a great matchup today. It's just a matter of who gets to start and where the minutes come from against Washington. Batum's back, had an eye problem. He's off the injury report. Marvin Williams, I believe, is also off their injury report. He's back, should be starting at the 4, seeing close to 30 minutes. Going into Chicago, Otto Porter Jr. just popped up on the injury report. He seems to be fine. And Zach LaVine seems to be back for this game. It's going to affect Ryan. It's going to affect Archie Iannacino. And it's going to affect Wayne Sullivan Jr., all these guys who are seeing increased run when Zach LaVine was out. A decent matchup today against the Clippers in terms of overall team, but for guys like Zach LaVine or whoever would be behind him, going up against Pat Beverly most likely, tougher matchup, probably a spot that, as of right now, not really interested in Zach LaVine. What other pieces of this game we'll get to. Gallinari said that he was ruled out in the last game for rest, and he said that he never knew that he was going to be ruled out. So that's interesting, but now he comes up as questionable with an ankle, so maybe there's more to it than that. That's going to be happening over there in for the Clippers. And then you get Reggie Jackson. He's popping up as questionable now, and he has a $4,300 price tag. Got hurt and didn't come back in the last game, so that's interesting. If he ends up being out, which I think there's a very real chance of that, Ish Smith, the guy seeing around 18 to 20 minutes a game, is going to be really the main point guard there. Should immediately assume Reggie Jackson's starting position at the point guard. Should be getting probably around 33 minutes in this game, I would imagine. So that's something interesting. Ish Smith, close to the minimum price on DraftKings in both sites. But if Reggie Jackson goes against the Lakers, and that's another thing to mention, this is a great matchup. I do like Reggie Jackson at 4,300. He's just too cheap. Yeah, his minutes are coming down, but a lot of those are just due to blowout runs or just due to the starters getting, or the second unit getting hot. If you check out Popcorn Machine, it's not just because they're cutting his minutes. There's actually factors going into that in those games. So it might blind some people. I think it's blinding this DraftKings algorithm a little bit, but the production is down, so it makes sense. Dwayne Wade's questionable today. If he's out, it's going to affect all these guards in Miami. There's a ton of them. Dion Waiters probably sees a pretty big bump. You're going to get a bump for Goran Dragic. Probably gets closer to 25 minutes secured instead of 22. And all the other guys out there, Richardson, Justice Winslow. Dennis Smith Jr. and Mario Hezonja for New York are questionable today. Dennis Smith Jr., if he's out, it's a pretty good matchup against Sacramento. I mean, Derek White is not a pushover at a defender, but in terms of the entire team for the Spurs, and not Sacramento, San Antonio, it's a pretty good matchup for Dennis Smith. And if he's out, Moutier provides some value there, especially because you can get Moutier as the starting point guard most likely, but also an increased minutes probably instead of his 25 to 26 that he's getting a game. Without Dennis Smith Jr., those minutes are going to be all tossed around between, I would imagine, Alonzo Trier and Moutier both getting closer to 30 minutes a game. Damian Dotson already seeing well above 30 minutes a game. So I think that's where those minutes would go. Hezonja coming back. Look, the thing here in New York with these bigs, and really the whole team, we know it's just kind of dysfunctional. I mean, Noah Vonleh wasn't playing any minutes when DeAndre Jordan was out, and now he's suddenly playing 30 minutes a game with DeAndre Jordan in there. So, I mean, then DeAndre Jordan will play 35 minutes or 20 minutes in a game. So it's really hard to tell. Hezonja, I imagine, impacts Noah Vonleh a bit, but right now I have Hezonja in for like 10 minutes in this game, which at that point only takes away 2 from Noah Vonleh. I have him in for 27, I believe. Ben Simmons, very good matchup, pace-up spot against Sacramento. You're going to get extra possessions out of this Philadelphia team today in what should be a pretty good game. Sacramento on a back-to-back, one of 2 teams tonight on a back-to-back, so it's a little bit scary. There's players that could be rested here. Marvin Bagley, the obvious one, just coming back from injury. And even De'Aaron Fox, the guy who they've been trying to limit his minutes down the stretch as the season is pretty much coming to an end, trying to limit him closer to 32 instead of the 34 to 35 he's playing at the beginning of the year. So there's always a threat on a back-to-back that Fox sits. We've seen it a few times this year. But Ben Simmons' overall matchup, either if Fox is in or out, is pretty good or really good. And the pace, the spot is nice. 8,500 price tag, still too low. Warren remains out. Injury has been lasting a while there in Phoenix. You know what to do there. Kelly Oubre, biggest bump, seeing now around 30-plus minutes a game, 31 to 32. Have him in for 32 today. Tyler Johnson, questionable. If he's out, you're going to get Devin Booker potentially playing the point. If not, DeAnthony Melton should start there. More time for Okubo as the backup, Eli Okubo. And then just Devin Booker will see more point guard usage if that's the case. Outside of that, Rudy Gay is probable with an illness today. It's going to affect Bertans. It's going to affect even Jacob Poeltl. Yeah. It's going to affect him a little bit, just because he'll start at the 5, but the rotation will get mixed around with Aldridge going to the 5 at points, Rudy Gay coming in. Trevor Ariza is questionable, and this is actually very interesting. Against Charlotte without no Cody Zeller, and that's another reason why these dirt cheap, we'll actually get to the interest, but that's another reason why I'm pretty big on Washington today. No Cody Zeller in general. There's not really guys out there, and there's a lot of guys on Washington who provide value at their price range. If Trevor Ariza is out, it's going to affect Jeff Green. It's going to affect Troy Brown and Jabari Parker, probably my favorite person it would affect. I would imagine Jabari slides into the starting rotation at the 4, and you would get Jeff Green potentially moving to the 3. If not that, then Jabari Parker at the 3. So Ariza is actually some pretty big news today. If he's in, somewhat interested in him, but more so interested in this team if he's out. So that's the injury news. I mean, biggest things to watch right now are what happens with Reggie Jackson, because that'll open up extreme value with Ish Smith in a very good matchup against the Lakers. Another thing just to keep an eye on is Dennis Smith Jr. If he is out, you're going to get increased minutes for Trier and mainly Moutier at that point guard position. Outside of that, just keeping all these question marks. Trevor Ariza, 8-game slate. You're going to get news that pops up out of nowhere. So as always, stay on top of it. Quickly, just want to shout out Draft Dashboard. Like I said in the beginning, that I had that radio show with SiriusXM. As of right now, I have a contract for 3 more shows, so a month of it. And Draft Dashboard helped me sort of secure that. So I'm excited about that. Draft Dashboard just helps you reduce your research time. It's what it is. It's a dashboard for DFS. So they have their own projections, things like that. I like just comparing usage, like I've said before. Different types of things you can see here, their own ownership that they update throughout the day. They have their own rankings of players. All green signifies good, whether it's a matchup, personal matchup, what goes into their projections. So it's a pretty cool tool if you're just quickly trying to analyze stuff throughout the day, not building your own sheets. And then you have right here just an NBA cheat sheet, quick look at some different tiers of value in terms of the high price guys, mid tier and low, where they're looking, or some just options early in the day at least. You can make watch players lists, and then you can kind of make a lineup optimizer from there. So you can try it down below, 30 days for $1. It's Draft Dashboard, 3 pennies a day if you want to just try it out to see if it helps you a little bit. That's what the promo is. Link down below. And let's go over to target offense. So blow this up just a tad bit for you. Target offense sheet today. Oh, I just got an update. Kareem Hunt suspended 8 games. NFL right there, so not for the NBA only crowd. But Kareem Hunt suspended 8 games. So that came out. Me and my roommates were actually talking, I think yesterday, about like what the news is with Kareem Hunt. Well, there's the news. As expected, so I would imagine more, should be more, but whatever. We don't have to get into that right now. So, target offense sheet, 8 games on this slate, 16 teams on this slate. What you're looking at here, if you're new here, is just a bunch of stuff about the positions for the team, pace, NBA spread or Vegas spreads and totals, team totals, and then how a specific team has been defending the position over the last 30 days in terms of DraftKings points allowed. It's going to be very similar. It's going to translate over to sites like FanDuel, to sites like Yahoo. The only difference between DraftKings, pretty much for the most part, is a double-double and triple-double upside and jump, and then Draft or FanDuel and some other sites, especially FanDuel, you're going to get 3 points for a block and steal. But it will all pretty much translate down into the same exact rankings. Maybe something will be off a little bit, but not anything crucial. So you're looking at DraftKings here scoring. And just, a few things to point out. The highest pace game on the slate, the top one right there, average pace in the NBA is around 102. So right here you have about 3 games over the average pace, 4 games over the average pace, really, a few right at that. The highest pace on the slate, and let's filter that so we can quickly get a nice look at it. We're going to get by column E. So the highest pace game on the slate, New Orleans and Portland. A little bit of a pace-up spot for Portland. New Orleans playing at extremely high pace. Some of these don't pull over. That's just because they're not linked properly, but that's fine. So New Orleans and Portland, we can look at it right here. I do like this spot. I like this spot for a lot of guys, and we'll get into it. The total is 235.5 as of right now. That sure can go up or down, but as of right now, 235.5 is a huge number, 3 points higher than anywhere else on the slate. The highest total on the slate is Portland with 121.5, barely edges Philadelphia at 121.25, pretty much the same thing. So New Orleans and Portland, neither team on a back-to-back tonight, both teams fresh, no worrying about any resting players as of right now. So, starting with New Orleans, Elfrid Payton, it's hard to ignore this guy, especially when he goes for, I think, back-to-back triple-doubles, absolutely killing it. And now he has a great matchup, or at least a decent matchup in terms of the spot. Portland allowing 50.51 fantasy points over the last 30 days to the point guard position. A beneficial matchup for this slate in Elfrid Payton. And his price has gone up $100 since the last game. I was expecting to see a $7K price tag, and that would have scared me away a little bit. But it still would have been okay based on the production of this guy. In only 31 to 32 minutes, he's going to get you a point plus per minute. That's what he's been averaging, over 1.2 points per minute since he took over these past 7 to 10 days. We should enjoy it while it lasts before Drew Holiday comes back. So yeah, I do like Elfrid Payton today. I also do like, and I haven't really checked his price, honestly, and we should probably look into this. Anthony Davis, has his price hit the 7K range? Yeah, 7,100. So I'm kind of off of Anthony Davis. But even at that price, 21 minutes, the guy's been a lock for 35 points, hitting value there for the most part. It was nicer when it was 66 and 68. But in cash, Anthony Davis, look, you want the minutes, but this is sort of an anomaly, whereas this guy's going to get you 2 points per minute most of the time he's out there. So in cash, you can consider it. I usually would rather not, due to I like secure minutes and guys who can get me 50. And Davis in 21 minutes, he can do it, but on very rare occasions. But at the same time, other guys who are in that same price range will get you 50 at probably the same clip, even on his minutes limit. So Anthony Davis is interesting in terms of cash for this game. Julius Randle, a guy whose price is coming down a little bit. Not the greatest of matchups against Portland. Not the greatest matchups against Yusuf Nurkic in Portland. Julius Randle, though, too expensive in my opinion. He's been priced upwards of 8,500 plus for a couple of games now, and he hasn't gotten anywhere near meeting value. I played him one of those times. Now he's down to 8,400, and I'm still not interested. Yeah, he can go for 45, 50 points, but he's been in the neighborhood, especially with Davis playing extremely well in his 21 minutes of putting up, and it seems like Davis is trying to give it his all in those 21 minutes. He's been in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 fantasy points, which at his price tag, I'm fine ignoring that. Some other spots that are interesting to me on this slate right here is the Clippers Specifically the point guard position. Actually, not the Clippers, but we'll go to New York. New York, the point guard position. We already talked about Emmanuel Mudiay potentially could start today if Dennis Smith Jr. is ruled out. Good start or good position against San Antonio. And on the flip side of that, DeMar DeRozan, if he starts at the 2, which I would imagine against New York is the second worst team in the entire league on the year. Over the last 30 days, they're in the bottom 5 against defending the shooting guard position. DeMar DeRozan is an excellent shooting guard who just doesn't shoot the ball, but he'll get you peripherals as well. So I do like DeMar DeRozan a decent amount today. As well as on the flip side of that, whoever starts at the point guard position, whether it is Dennis Smith Jr. or Emmanuel Mudiay, I do like that spot extremely well. Another huge spot that is sort of hard to ignore, this Detroit and Lakers game. Look, getting this Lakers team right is pretty tough. I really don't know how to do it at this point. Now that you have Caldwell Pope seeing his minutes creep back up, it's really tough to get any sort of read on this team, and I'm really not interested, at least as of right now, in playing any of them. Kuzma is always a guy who's interesting to me. LeBron on a minutes limit, don't want to play it. He could surely get there, but just don't want to play that. But on the Detroit side, we already mentioned Ish Smith's in a great spot. Pretty much his whole team's in a great spot because the Lakers are a bad team already. In general, you're getting a huge pace-up spot for these Detroit players. So huge pace-up spot against a bad defense who's playing a lot of young secondary players. I mean, this is a smash spot for a lot of these Detroit guys. Whoever's starting at the point, I would like Ish Smith at a discounted rate and secured minutes over 30. But if it's Reggie Jackson starting, I like him as well. I like Blake Griffin here, whose price is down to $7,700. And I love Andre Drummond, who is just getting absolutely disrespected on DraftKings, priced back down to $8,800 for a guy who, the last time out, the overall team laid an egg. But besides that, the guy's been averaging like 45 points over the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season in DraftKings. And he's priced below that average in a matchup that just screams smash spot against the Lakers. Again, pace up spot against whoever's going to be out there. Whether it's Wagner for 10 minutes, JaVale McGee for 22, I have him at right now. Kuzma, if he gets 5 time, it doesn't matter. Drummond is in a great spot. So that's something right there that's interesting. The Philadelphia-Sacramento game, we already mentioned Ben Simmons has a good spot, extra possessions in this game. For Philadelphia, projected for 104 possessions per team. Sacramento, it's going to be interesting to see. I would expect Bagley to sit. Interesting to see if anybody else sits. Bielitsa continues to get starts at the 4 today. I would imagine after starting yesterday, he's in a decent spot. But then on the Philly side, outside of Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid is interesting. Does have a nice matchup today, the pace-up spot and everything like that. Should get his minutes. He got 34 in the last game after some people, including myself, were thinking he wouldn't see over 32, just coming back from injury. Got 34 right away. I would imagine I have him in again for 34. I imagine a great game out of Embiid today, and I just like this overall spot. Lots of fun games on the slate. Philadelphia, Sacramento. Sacramento's a fun team to watch. The Lakers and Detroit, not a fun game to watch, but a fun game in terms of fantasy points on the Detroit side primarily. So that's where I'm looking at right now. Let's go over to early interests. Target offense sheet, again, you can get it on Twitter. Shout me out on Twitter. I think I got it up here above my head somewhere. Any questions you have, I usually answer if they're relevant. If they're just something that doesn't really relate or I don't think will help you if I answer it, I just won't answer it. But shout me out on Twitter. I'll help you out as much as I can. Follow me on Twitter just to be able to do that. And then it'll also be in the Discord, so get in there. Screenshots are already in there. Projections are already up for the first run. For all of you who are watching this in our Patreons, they are up. They will be updated throughout the day, especially because we have a lot of injury news. Let's move over to some early interest. And again, only teams on back-to-back are Sacramento and the Lakers. So that's why I mentioned just the Marvin Bagley thing could sit out, and potentially De'Aaron Fox, whose minutes have been limited a little bit. So let's go to early interest today. There's a pretty long injury list, or not injury list, but also injury list, but laundry list here. And just to clarify, these are not picks, like I always say. I can't give out picks. Like, even if I wanted to give out picks, I literally couldn't give out picks at 10 o'clock in the morning when there's so much injury news in the NBA. If this was the NFL, it's much easier to give out picks. I still wouldn't because it just seems a little tacky in my opinion, like I've said before. But these are early interests. Depending on their price, they could be interesting to me. Their matchup, somebody's injured. So this is just where I'm going early on. There's obviously not a complete list here. There's more to come from this. And actually, I should be checking something out since this isn't popping up. Ish Smith. All right, he's good. He's just not pulling right. Cool. But so just checking out, Ish Smith, his value didn't pop up from my projections, but it's just not pulling right, so it's fine. I think I have to put his whole name, Ishmael or whatever it is. Ishmael, yeah. So Yeah, this isn't a complete list. There's guys on this that I already know, potentially Buddy Hield, some other players that I would have interest in if I was actually building lineups. I don't build lineups. Sometimes I build like a first look lineup mid-afternoon, maybe like 2 or 3-ish. Most of the time, I don't start building until 4 or 5-ish. Earlier in the year, it was around 6 just because class schedule was hectic and stuff. But let's get into the early interest, and it's no ranking order, it's just guys that came to mind. Once I saw Drummond's price, once I saw his matchup coming off of a down game, I think this is just a smash spot for Drummond. Overall, got in foul trouble, I believe, last game just a little bit, but overall, the team just in general laid an egg there. I kind of don't look too much into that as opposed to the 3 to 4 weeks before of a smash spot for Drummond. And the main reason that his points per minute are up is because Blake Griffin's points per minute are down and his production is down. A big part of that is because teams are building their defenses around stopping Blake Griffin, and that should slowly transition to Drummond. But trying to stop a non-shooting center and double teams there just doesn't make as much sense as the guy who can play all over the entire court like Griffin. So Drummond's been the beneficiary from that $8,800 salary is now where it's pretty much been for the past month when he's just been going off for pretty frequent 50 to 60 point nights. Love Drummond today overall at that price point. Something that early on seems like a spot I want to build around. Joel Embiid below 10K seems interesting here as well. Seems like his minutes limit is up. Do like him quite a bit in this pace-up spot. Extra possessions for a guy like Embiid, extra rebound opportunities. Could be a very easy 20-20 game here against the likes of Willie Cauley-Stein and Harry Giles. Cauley-Stein can hold his own in his defense, but I think that this is a matchup that Joel Embiid will dominate as he does so many. Ish Smith, and I really should put Reggie Jackson right below him. They're both on this list. Look, whoever draws the start. So if Ish Smith's starting, it means Reggie Jackson's out, and I love that at $3,900. And if it's Reggie Jackson, if he starts, only $400 more though. So if he starts, I like him. And the thing that's nice about Reggie Jackson is he's a point guard, but you could roster him in the shooting guard spot, which is something I'm looking to do as much as possible because I'd rather have a starting point guard, especially in a favorable matchup when they're cheap, than a cheap favorable matchup starting shooting guard just because the usage is just increased with that point guard. Emmanuel Mudiay interested if Dennis Smith Jr. is out. Dennis Smith Jr. should be on this list. He's not, but pretty much same thing. I could speak on it. Whoever starts here, I have interest in. Emmanuel Mudiay is the guy who's a good amount cheaper, over $1,000 cheaper. So that would be nice. But if it's Dennis Smith Jr., there is some interest there. It probably comes down a little bit just due to pricing. But again, don't know what lineup construction looks like yet. Jabari Parker, this is mainly if Trevor Ariza is out. Jabari Parker is a fine play either way. Nice matchup against Charlotte today, especially with no Cody Zeller, or what we think is no Cody Zeller. But I don't want to pay that much for a guy off the bench, at least in cash. Fine in tournaments, but even then, if it's somewhat high ownership, no. But if we're going to get news that Trevor Ariza is out, Jabari Parker, I would imagine, slides into the rotation. And if he is, and if that's the case, the starting rotation, I love that at $5,800. Lauri Markkanen, something to talk about. Lauri Markkanen has been dreadful. The man must have known his fantasy price hit the mid to high 8K range, or even the 8K range in general, because he's been dreadful. But now in a very favorable spot here against the Clippers, who potentially don't have Gallinari today, which might not be as helpful if it draws a start for Harrell. But Markkanen's price is coming down. I wish it was down a little bit more. And what was Markkanen at? I just want to check his price the last time. I was at $8,200. Some reason $7,700 is standing out to me. $8,200, yeah. So the price continues to come down. $7,700 2 games before that. So price continues to come down on Lauri Markkanen, who you could roster at power forward or center, preferably power forward if you're going to be starting him. 8K, look, it's at a point where now it's becoming interesting for a guy who was continuously dropping 50 to 60 point games for like a 2-week stretch, just playing completely out of his mind. Robin Lopez, though, his minutes are up. Robin Lopez wasn't playing a secure 33 minutes during that stretch, with Lopez playing pretty well and playing 32 to 35 minutes a game, getting a lot of run. It's hurt Markkanen a little bit. The rebounding rates have gone down, but I do like Markkanen, especially that the price is coming down. In fantasy, ways to get edges are targeting players who have not been playing well when their prices are coming down because, one, people are going to jump off of them. So in tournaments or even in cash, there's going to be less of those players. So just more ownership for you. You're going to have more leverage over the field in both formats. And then 2, their price is not going to keep going down. Like at some point, this player is a good player. It's going to rebound. So is that price $8,000? I don't know. It could be $7,500. But if it is $8,000 and he goes for $60 today, that's probably going to be the low point that you get on Lauri Markkanen, maybe for a few days or a few weeks. Similar to like a stock market. You just have to kind of feel it out. I think Lauri Markkanen's bottom number has yet to come. I don't think 8K will be as low as it goes. I think that we might see a $7,700 Lauri Markkanen once again. But at 8K, I'm fine taking that risk a little bit, especially because of the matchup. Spent a little bit of time on Lauri, but I think it's just something to point out. When players are trending downward, there's a lot of upside and potential there because nobody wants to attack them. But that's how you win tournaments, by attacking players who are just not as popular because recent performance, they've been bad. But if they're a good player overall, that recent performance is just a small sample in their overall big season. It's likely to turn around. But a lot of people just look at that and go, oh, last 3 games in the game log, last 2, last 4 or 5, he's been bad. I can't play this player. He's a terrible player. When really that's not the case. People like to look at the recent performance. Recency bias is a very powerful thing. Marvin Williams, 4,600. Look, not a guy I really ever roster, but the matchup is very nice here. The price point at 4,600, if no other secure value comes out, he's a nice play. It's as simple as that value-wise. I have him at a 6.01 value as of right now for his price point. Have him projected for, I believe, screw it. We could look at this. We'll look on the projection sheet. Marvin Williams is projected as of right now early in the morning for 27.66 fantasy points at the price of 4,600. You probably take that most nights, especially if no other value opens up. All right. Next up on the list, Ben Simmons. We talked a good amount about Ben Simmons today. Nice that you could roster him in 5 different spots with a power forward, small forward eligibility. Bradley Beal, only a shooting guard. Wish he was a point guard too, because I would roster him probably a little bit more. $9,500. Started off really hot last game, then kind of just slowed down a little bit. Definitely some interest here against Charlotte. Playing a lot of point guard as well as the shooting guard position. Thomas Satoransky and him splitting up those point guard minutes pretty much, if not more. Beal playing just insane minutes. I have him projected for 39 minutes today. I'm projecting a man's median minutes projection for 39. It's just insane what he's been doing out there. Spectacular year, potential career year without John Wall there for sure. Blake Griffin, 7,700. I said the price is coming down more so now digestible easily for cash, and then even in tournaments. The matchup couldn't get any better here against the Lakers. Who is going to stop him? Kyle Kuzma at best at the 4. LeBron will be limited and not out there at the same time as Griffin. And there's really nobody, even if they double team this guy, who can stop him. I think Blake Griffin, 7,700, similar to Lauri Markkanen, playing dreadful over the past month of the season. And that is going to hit at some point and come and turn around. At least the price will get to a point where it's valuable to roster them, and I think we're at that point now with Blake Griffin. Robin Lopez, 5,700, talked about this. The matchup's just incredible. Best matchup on the slate against the Clippers, who just give up fantasy points, last in the league in just defending that position over the last 30 days, the center. 5,700, though, is a lot to pay for a guy like Lopez, but it's at least nice that you get that secure 33 to 34 minutes out of him. Not a strong interest there, but an interest nonetheless. Chris Paul, 6,900. Price doesn't change. Good matchup against Phoenix. Not much more to say here other than this is the cheapest a healthy Chris Paul has been since obviously the last game, same price point, but the cheapest that he's been in over a year. Hernan Gomez, 3,200. Not strong interest here. I mean, these guys are bad players. If you look at NBA Wowie, like on the year, his points per minute is like 1.19 or something, or whatever it might be in the past 2 years. But if you look at it since the All-Star break, where he doesn't really have much time at all, it's closer to 1. And if you look at it even a month before that, it's closer to a point per minute per game. So that's why he doesn't come up for me. Maybe some other projections that have him at 20 to 21 minutes. He comes up with 24, 25 fantasy points. Right now, pretty much as many minutes as he plays, that's as many points as I give him. And I have him at 21 minutes today, 22 actually, I believe. So I have him around 22 fantasy points, which at 3,200 is very, very good. If he draws a start against Washington, it's something to look into. Just know that there's a decent risk there. But he's playing in a much more favorable matchup today than he was in the last game. Very favorable matchup, actually. Bobby Portis will be the guy going up potentially against him, which is why I like Bobby Portis a very good amount today. Look, if it's Bismack Biyombo starting, it hurts Portis. Just a better overall defender can cause more havoc, especially for a guy like Portis. But Portis' rebounding numbers, and the thing that's scary is just Thomas Bryant is a weapon right there. Thomas Bryant can go for a 17-minute game, but if he comes in and he plays hot, they'll let him roll for 28 minutes, and then that just kills Portis' value like we saw in the last game. Every time I roster him in my main lineup in cash, that seems to happen like the last time out. But Bobby Portis is an interest at 6,100. If all, no foul trouble, no Thomas Bryant comes in and goes for 10, 6, and 1 in 7 minutes, 6 minutes, then we should see Bobby Portis seeing around 29 minutes today. Lou Williams, interesting more so in tournaments. Not the greatest of matchups, but it depends on who guards him. If he draws Zach LaVine, then it is a good matchup. If he draws Chris Dunn, which I really don't expect, then it is a bad matchup. And controlling the second team usage rate, right around, what is his usage rate today? 33% on this team. And coming off the bench as the second team unit, going up against, for the most part, second team Bulls. I do like that. Elfrid Payton mentioned it, 6,600. The guy's just still way too cheap. Way too cheap. not the greatest of matchups overall, but it's deceptive because, yeah, Damian Lillard isn't a great matchup to go up against, but Damian Lillard and this team overall has been giving up points to the point guard position. A lot of that, though, can be factored into the second unit, Seth Curry and just guys back there, but it's still nonetheless 32 minutes out of Peyton at 6,600. Controlling this offense is too cheap. Yusuf Nurkic, look, the minutes are scary. I think I have him in for 27 today, or 27 or 28, somewhere in there. But the minutes are scary. It could be easily 25. It could be 31. He's all over the place. That's why he's priced down a little bit, because he's just all over the place in terms of his range of outcomes. But matchup today against New Orleans, it doesn't get much better. Clint Capella matchup today against Phoenix doesn't get much better. I don't usually pay for Clint Capella, 7,300 center only eligibility, so it's usually a thing that I don't get to, but I'm going to be interested to see if I fit him into lineups today because the matchup is good. And we talked about DeRozan, one of the best matchups today for the shooting guard position against the Knicks. Should be a spot that he feasts. To be completely honest with you, Damian Dotson will not control DeMar DeRozan today. Yeah. That is it. We talked a lot. This video might run a little bit long because it was an 8-game slate and I want to talk about some stuff, but that's it, gang. I'll leave you on the Target Offense page. Get on Twitter. Ask me some questions if you'd like. Get on the Discord. Chat in there. But yeah, if you want the projections, you can get them right here. They're already out today and they'll be updated based on injuries. Check out Draft Dashboard. 30 days for $1. You can try out all their tools, their lineup optimizer, player pool. Check out their NBA cheat sheet. All those different types of things. And get in the Discord. We got over 300 people. What is it? 24 plus. Yeah, we got like 310 people now, so it's awesome. Lots of people in the community. Greatly appreciate it, guys. My name is Sal. You already know that. Best of luck. 8-game slate. Should be fun. Peace.